one of the greatest violinists in India and across the world, Sunita Bhuyan. So, Sunita, today we will try to understand your leadership style. What has helped you become what you are today?
Whatever I do, has been defined, formed, and created by another woman. That's my mother.
Learning and training through music. It's more of an innovation that came through you, or is it something that you have been inspired by? Are there any other precedents?
The metaphor of the orchestra is what's going to be the highlight of the program.
Right.
How in the orchestra you work with different elements. You work with strings, leather, wind, but yet everyone works together, working with differences. Each team member has a different skill set, but yet everyone sings the same song.
Who are the leaders who inspire you?
I admire Narendra Modi's confidence.
You go back to your homes and think of how art can help you evolve your own leadership style. Welcome to our leadership podcast, where we dissect leadership in unique ways. Today, our guest needs no introduction. She is one of the greatest violinists in India and across the world. And she's one of those rare individuals who has mixed her passion and profession together and creates leadership through the power of music. Sunita Bhuyan, thanks a lot for coming. How are you today?
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor and pleasure to be part of the GMI podcast in collaboration with HDFC Ergo. Wonderful. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. So Sunita, today we will try to understand your leadership style, your motivations, what has helped you become what you are today. In order to understand that, we begin with your childhood. You'd like to know, yes, about some memories from your childhood that have shaped you to be doing what you're doing today.
Actually, whatever I do, has been defined, formed, and created by another woman. That's my mother. Because I was born with the gift of music from her. And I think that was a huge blessing because when they say you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth, but I was definitely born with the gift of music. And so when I was 7.5 or 8 years old, I just kind of took one of the violins that she used to teach with. And my mother, Vinoti Count, is one of those ladies 65 to 70 years back, took the violin to the Northeast. So a huge influence of my mother being a pioneer at her times, being married with 2 children in a traditional household in Northeast in Assam, also pursued her passion to learn music and also gave it to us. So that was my childhood memory. So music was not taught as a hobby. It was it was the religion in the house. And academics was like all other children studied. So I went to school, I did college, and then I happened to do an MBA in human resources.
Okay.
And I'll stop here. So music was always with me, and I had to study music, which was the difficult part.
Right.
Because studying music for a young girl is quite overwhelming, but my mother managed to make me do my graduation. I was one of the young graduates at 16 years old. I had done my Sangeet Visharad, and then she said, you have to do your Sangeet Nipun, which is the Masters in Music, and I thank her for that now. But at that time, I did resist it on and off.
Okay. And how did the MBA HR happen? Was that part of your choice? You wanted to do something in the HR space?
In fact, I was a political science graduate, and then somehow the management, world intrigued me because I thought that there's a lot of people, it's people intensive, right? Human resources about people, and music and arts and aesthetics is also about people and their tastes. So, I was in Assam in Guwahati, and because political science didn't interest me beyond a point after I did my graduation, I said, let me give the entrance exam of the MBA human resources of the university, which are only 25 seats, but somehow I think I got through. And there was no looking back.
Okay. That's how your HR career started, I believe. So, would you like to share something about your career in the HR space and how you were able to later come to build the career that you have today? The kind of impact that you have had through music. But before that, I would love to understand how some experiences from your background in the HR space.
Well, so when I finished my HR, I was already a performing violinist.
Yeah, of
But
course.
but you know, you do an MBA in HR, and then I moved to Bombay. I got married, and I moved to Bombay. I had my son. So you have to work, right? And how does an artist in India, survive without financial support?
Okay.
You either have to belong to a musical family or to a very well-to-do family, or you need to be at the top to be able to call the shots as far as earning your livelihood. Being a violinist from Assam coming to Bombay, I knew I had to fund my music. And it's not just funding your music, it's about learning, it's going for festivals, getting the best instruments. That was one of the, influencers for me to ensure that I have to work. But the entire MBA course itself gave me a lot of connecting moments with what I studied in my Master of Music.
Okay.
Because physics is science, right? So how does sound impact the mind and body? And if sound impacts the mind and body, it enables you to learn, it enables you to think better, so it enables learning.
Right.
So I joined the training manager for an American Express back office, and the anecdote is that my first client after I was on my own was American Express, whom I met at a GPW event.
Okay. Wow.
That's on the side. So that's when I realized, when I joined the outsourcing world in 2002, I realized that there are a lot of talented people who are joining the industry, joining the organization. But I felt as they grew in the organization, their lateral thinking needed a lot more to be,
Right.
to be able to manage teams. So how do you think cross-functionally? How do you understand people? How do you work with people? How do you work with differences? First, how do you calm yourself and make your learning more optimal, more efficient? And that's when I introduced music in the training room.
Okay.
That was the first step.
Nice.
By the time I joined First Source, the ICICI group, I was very clear I wanted to use music. But I wasn't so confident to negotiate that you need to let me use music. And there I started using it at a more deeper level. But it was my third job with Intel Limited, which is Artos now, where I did negotiate that I will take care of your training business that you want me to, but I would like to use music as a tool for structured learning interventions. So that was the moment where it was quite organic. There was no eureka moment,
So learning and training through music, it's more of an innovation that came through you, or is it something that you have been inspired by? Are there any other precedents?
There are courses in Harvard and places like that where people use leadership principles from the field of music.
Okay.
But I think now we're not supposed to say I in Indian music,
Of
right?
course, yes.
Our Guru Shishya Parampara says that you can't say I did it. It's we. It's so much like the corporate world.
Right.
Anyone who said I for too long has not
It's
survived,
not
right? If
survived.
you have got to say we,
Yeah.
it's ours.
Yeah.
So, a structured learning intervention, which is part of the official HR developmental program of an organization. I've definitely started it in
Wow,
India.
that's amazing.
The first ever music-led course for the IM group in IM Shillong. I chose IM Shillong because
Northeast, yeah.
Northeast, was designed by yours truly, which is a 12-part credit course on aesthetics and creativity through music for sustainable leadership. It was very clear. It was in collaboration with there were 50 students, and then there's of course INSEAD set up in France with whom I've trained.
Okay.
And then there are many other organizations like yourselves.
Right.
So that's the one. That's the thing that I do.
Right. So I'd like to maybe if you have some stories of success of leaders that have come through these courses, these kinds of interventions that you have created, or any examples you would like to share, because our audience would love to know how this innovation that has been created by you is now creating a unique kind of impact on the world.
Well, I'll tell you how the formal workshop happened, and
Yeah.
then, so when one of the erstwhile CEOs of Sintel, Prashant Ranade, he's a very well-known person and very, very well-regarded. He said, I have a new leadership team because he had joined as the CEO, and why don't you do a structured intervention on teamwork through music? And till then, I had named my program Melody and Harmony,
Okay.
which was quite, quite. Everyone said, it's such a tacky name. I said, well, it's the work that I do in it. Forget the name,
Yeah.
right? So then I thought, let me give it a name, and that's when I structured it. And then I went back and I said, the metaphor of the orchestra is what's going to be the highlight of the program.
Right.
How in the orchestra you work with different elements. You work with strings, leather, wind, but yet everyone works together, working with differences. Each team member has a different skill set, but yet everyone sings the same song.
Right.
And how do you give limelight to those at the right time, yet not leave anyone behind? How does the smallest contributor always adds to the larger song? And how do you ensure that person is appreciated? All that came as a part of Sahakriya. Saha together, action together.
Got it.
But as I did, that was the first time I did a formal intervention with the chairman of the company, the CEO, and all the CXOs. And well, right after that, in a few years, I had to leave my full-time assignment in Sintel to be able to do it with other people.
Right. And would love to understand a little bit more about, so in music itself, you have conquered a number of feats. So if you'd like to share a little bit of the experience purely in music that you have accomplished, I believe you have played across the world. Anything you'd like to share with us, with our audience?
Well, music, the stage has been my learning ground.
Of course.
So all about Sahakriya, the metaphor of the orchestra, I learned on the stage, collaborating with very musicians from rural Assam to musicians in Scotland, in Glasgow, in the Highlands. And every time I went for a festival like that, I came back and I thought, oh gosh, this is amazing assimilation. This is collaboration. So like I said, it grew very organically. And well, where have I played? I've played across the world. Yes, a lot also because of my corporate
Of course.
assignments, as well as festivals where I went early as a young violinist and said, please let me play. But that gave you that, I learned, well, where have I played? I've done work for 30,000 children in the community. We just discussed about music therapy and music for people with disabilities and cancer patients, how well-being is a big, through music is very scientific. That has taken me to communities across. It's taken me to the Vatican.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You have played for the Pope?
I have played for the Don Bosco at the Vatican. I have got a recognition from His Holiness for having worked with Don Bosco. And, well, played recently was very interesting, which was for, the 8 northeastern states. Now, the entire program on inclusion that I conduct is about how arts can drive inclusion, can drive working with differences. That was with the 8 northeastern states on how we can drive the theme of women, girl, child, and sustainability and working together. So that was a recent one for the Honorable Prime Minister who premiered it for us.
Amazing.
Or rather, we premiered it for him, sorry. We premiered it for him at Delhi, where 45 musicians from 8 northeastern states, including Sikkim, we had to weave the music from one state to the other as one music.
Right.
And not to make Northeast a region, but to make Northeast an integral part of India. That's inclusion, right? We always think that going to the community and doing a workshop with children there is inclusion for me, which I thought it was earlier. But I think that's again exclusion.
Right, true.
But inclusion is what? Sharing the stage with them. Can I share the stage with people? If I say I work with people with disabilities, can I play with them?
With them.
Can I do Sahakriya with them?
Right.
Whether it's for the visual impaired or hearing impaired, that will be sharing. In the same way in the business world, it's, do you share your stage rightfully with your team members and those who enable you always to give your best? That's what we, we learn from music. If I don't give that opportunity, that limelight to my percussionist, who's my main backbone, he won't be excited or eager to come and play with me every time.
Right.
So that's how you take your team along with me, giving them their, I think that's inclusion, sharing the stage.
It is inclusion. And last year in May 2024, you played at and you performed at NCPA at the Great Minds League Summit. How was your experience there? Because I can say from our behalf, it was one of the, it received standing ovation. People loved it. They were able to take back something which they had never taken. Many of them had never taken back from any summit in the past. So it was a very unique experience for a number of people. How was your experience?
First of all, the Great Manager Institute Summit was very beautifully curated. It wasn't in a banquet hall of a hotel.
Yeah.
That itself completely, and it was at the Tata Theatre, which gives a different sense of belongingness of the audience with the speaker.
Right.
Because everyone sees the speaker from a different angle. At the center, how the Tata Theatre is done.
Right, true.
And again, NCBA is a temple for the arts, hence. But what I liked about GMI Summit was that, it had people from different facets from the Indian Army. It had people from, it had a practitioner like myself. Then there were, most of the people that were talking there were from different facets of life. And I think that's the way we can go towards a circular economy, because you have to have a circular life.
Right.
Art has to learn from business has to learn from art, we have to learn from the armed forces, we've got to learn from entertainment. It's got to be a circular life first before it becomes a circular economy. And I think you guys managed to crack that with the list, with the lineup of speakers. As far as my session, it was not a performance, okay?
Of course.
Performance for me is in the evening with my band, and it's only 1 hour to 2 hours of performance.
Right.
That was a 20-minute session on creativity and teamwork through music.
Right.
It was so easy because you had set the stage.
Nice.
The way your team, starting with Prasanjit, the way the team curated it, gave me the objectives of the summit, and how well-being was a very integral part of the outcome that you all wanted in managers.
Right.
And how you all wanted managers to develop holistic leadership. And what better way than arts, like sports or any other field. So, because I'm a musician, I use arts. Arts gives you some very, very intricate, very sensitive, facets to your character, which really works well when you have to work with people. Because what we are, you and I, we just form, right? You're wearing this suit, I'm wearing this black and red dress. I come from a particular descent. I have a certain way my DNA works. My faculties has been determined as I was born. So it's science. But the way we express ourselves, the way we work with people, the way we embrace the world is aesthetics.
Right. True.
Hence, you can learn all that from art. And that's what I did with the session. And I had two fabulous people playing with me.
Yeah.
So that always creates the right... I wouldn't say magic, because you don't say magic about your own session. My mother and guru would be so upset.
But it was magical. We can say so.
But you have good people to work with. Isn't it amazing?
Yes. It is amazing.
Another leadership lesson.
Yes.
That always try to be with people who are better than you. Which unfortunately today most leaders and managers have this sense of insecurity that everyone in the team you have to have a special skill set compared to others. No, you need to have people who are better than you guys. You up your own act.
Right.
So that's another example that we learn from music.
Let me put you in the spot here in that case, because now let's dive deeper into your mind in a way, because
God.
one of the things that we do in this
have
pod,
a cup of sip of tea here.
Sure. So one of the things we do in the podcast is to understand the leaders in a way that is deeper. So you mentioned that you work with people who would be better than you. So let's start off by
like to work.
But
I always get the opportunity. Okay.
Who are the violinists who you believe are better than you?
Oh my God!
Let's start with that.
I'm, like you mentioned at the beginning, the best violinist in the country. No way.
Okay.
See, one is the domain and the craft.
Right.
The technicalities of the violin. I'm nowhere the best in that. There are some fabulous violinists. I can name them, from Kala Ramnath, my friend, to Dr. M. Rajam, her daughter. They're female violinists. I'm not going to name the male ones. But is there someone who uses an HR professional who uses music? We've got to find one, because I'm sure there is someone who's doing that. But it's nice to be a pioneer in that.
Yeah.
Was that your question? It wasn't.
Yeah, it was the question. I mean, you mentioned the name.
The craft is a different thing.
Right.
How you're using your domain to align it to what the world needs. So I've taken I'm not only a musician now, so I'm basically an HR professional like all
Of
of
course,
you.
yeah, yeah.
How I use music as a tool.
Right.
It's a medium. It's a tool. It's like you use case studies. You use the theories. You use the Harvard case studies. People use adventure to learn about so many critical skills. I use music to
Right.
train on teamwork and
Perfect.
creativity.
So let's say you have an option to be a fly on the wall, in any historical moment of any leader. Where would you like to be that fly on the wall? If you can be see the life of any leader that you admire, could be from the music world, could be from the world of business. Which leader's world would you like to see closely?
I would
Either
like-
living or past.
Yeah, I would like to be a fly on the wall when Mother Teresa would declare that there'll be peace and no war anymore.
Okay.
If she would have been given that, I don't know which leader would be able to take that. I would like to be a fly on the wall of a leader who manages to convince the world that let's not make war.
Right.
You know?
Makes sense.
So yeah, that's there's the planet which is also at risk. But what's war doing, as you see, with the lives and children of people?
Perfect. And who are the leaders who inspire you?
Leaders of the corporate world, most of them I just met Narayan Murthy the other day
Okay.
at in the airport. So much has been happening with the work hours that's happened.
Yes. Any thoughts on that as well, if you would like to share very quickly? Any thoughts?
No, I don't agree to that. No one can say that you have to work for 90 hours or 70 hours, or I don't agree to that. The other comment, I don't know in what basis it was said, but it was said at the end of the day. But he was sitting like all of you, sitting like all of us. And when I asked, when someone was rushing ahead, he said, "Why is this person in a hurry?" I said, "She must be a fast track customer." Then he asked me, "What is fast track?" I said, "You have to give 400 or 500 rupees to get your luggage out first." So that was my conversation with him. I really liked his simplicity.
Amazing. Yeah. Great. So as we come to the end of this podcast, there are lots of young MBA HR who are coming out of institutions, and many of them are becoming first-time managers. Any message, any lessons for them?
I know that it's we need to be jack of all trades in today's world, but we've got to be master of one. A deep depth of domain in one subject will always keep you in business. Will always be wanted. That's one. The second is that there is no comparison with kindness and humanity. We have to be kind and sensitive and human, and there has to be purpose along with profit, guys. You could be an entrepreneur or a startup, but you've got to have purpose when you're out there to get profit.
Amazing. And one more follow-up question to that. Any message for so many aspiring musicians out there who may not have thought the way you thought that music can transform leadership? What should they do to maybe start following your footsteps, if at all?
Oh, wow. Try to impact people's lives in some way with the art. Music and entertainment make stars out of people. You become famous, but always think that if you can share that music with someone who needs it, never ever look back, because we've got to give back something. And especially try and share it with those who don't have access. Some of us were born with the gift of music, but can we give it to people who don't have that access?
Thank you, Sunita, for this amazing conversation we had today. And to the audience, I hope after this session, after this podcast, you go back to your homes and think of how art can help you evolve your own leadership style. Thanks a lot.